Good morning, YouTube. It is Wednesday, the 27th of May, about 11:30 a.m. here in Perth. So the market, let's have a quick look at what's going on. The XJO is currently up 41 points today at 5821, which is a big turnaround because it was down, I think, about 60 points earlier today. So it has it sort of bounced back, and the Americans were up a lot last night, but we sort of priced it in yesterday, I think, on our market. So it started low. The banks are having a cracking day today. ANZ up, I think last time I looked, they're up over 10%. Where are we? Well, 9.98% today, up $1.66. All the banks are doing well today, though. CBA, what's that? That's up, what is the percentage? 6%. NAB up 9.2%. Macquarie up 4%, and Westpac down there. Westpac's actually doing the best, up 10.3%. So, yeah, all the banks are having a good day today. Now, what I was going to talk about today was really my big regrets in the market, and these are stocks that I didn't buy that I wish I did. Or one of them is actually one that I did hold many years ago, and I sold it off, unfortunately. Back then, if I had held it, I would be a very rich man today. The first one is CBA, Commonwealth Bank. Now, this takes me back to when I was just a wee lad. My first job out of school, I was a butcher, and I worked at the butcher shop, a small shop, just me and the boss in Mount Pleasant, which is a suburb just south of Perth here. Back then, I used to get paid in cash every week. So on a Friday, I used to take my cash up to the local branch, which was just about 4 doors up from the butcher shop, and it was a CBA. And there was a young teller in there. I think he was a teller, maybe he was higher up than that, I can't remember. But his name was Lee. I do remember that. He was a nice guy, and I do remember him trying to get me to invest in some Commonwealth Bank shares. They were about $5, $5.40. I think they listed for. I did check. I don't remember that. I did check a little bit earlier. I think it was $5.40 they were back then. There's only one problem. Like, I was really interested in the stock market, really interested. I had some money. My mum had given me some money a few years earlier that I'd saved, and I was a good saver back then as well. So I think I may have had $10,000, $12,000 saved. The main problem was I was only 17, so I couldn't get the shares. And I do remember looking at ways, get them in my mum's name, or somehow set up a trust and all that sort of stuff back then. But for whatever reason, I never got them. And it's always proved one of my big regrets that I never bought CBA shares back then, and just held on to them because they've done. Well, when you look at it now, I guess today they're about a $65 share. So what's that? 13 times on your money. But on top of that, it's the amount of dividends that they paid out over that time. If you had just been smart enough, if I had just been smart enough to dividend reinvest over that time, I was trying to work it out, but it all got a bit difficult for me. But there'd be, a $10,000 investment would be worth many hundreds of thousands of dollars these days. That's a lot of water has gone under the bridge in that time. So whether I would have held them for all that time, I guess you never know. But nice thought, and it's always been one of my regrets that I didn't buy CBA back then. Number 2 regret was a little bit after that one, and it's a stock I talk about a lot because I do call it my favourite stock on the ASX, and that is REA, realestate.com.au. Now, I've spoken before about how I used to trade the stock market back in the late 90s when the tech boom was going on. And REA was one that I used to dabble with back then. And there's times back then when REA was, in the early 2000s, this was less than 10 cents a share. And I would buy hundreds of thousands and sell hundreds of thousands of these shares regularly. And, I look back now just to think if I had 100,000 shares, 100,000 REA shares over those years, I've probably sold REA shares for 8 cents, way back then. And just to think if I had held them, 100,000 shares of REA, near enough $100 a share today, maybe over $100 a share. I think they are. That's $10 million. That's life-changing. So yeah, REA. I still love them because I do own a few, and I bought a few more just recently when they were down at $67. I bought some more. and they're a stock that have done well for me over the years. But when I look back at what could have been REA, I do just well, I guess it's a regret, but you just don't know at that time that they were going to be the company that they've turned into, because there was a lot of companies back then. This is in the tech boom that were going to be huge, and most of them went by the wayside. REA is just one that actually had a proper business idea and carried it out. Now the third one, for some reason, this is probably the one I regret the most, even though maybe it hasn't cost me the most money, but it's more that I get reminded of it so much, and that is CSL. Now, what a stock they have been. And they listed back in '94, and for some reason or another, I don't remember them listing, and I don't remember being particularly interested in the market at that particular time. Over time, my interest does come and go with the market, and just maybe early 20s, that was just a time where I was probably more interested in other things. So I don't remember them listing, but this is a stock more in the late 90s when I met my wife, and this is why it's so painful, because it was actually my wife who has no interest in the stock market whatsoever. She was the one that told me I should buy CSL, because she worked at a vet practice, and one of the drug reps had come in and was talking about CSL shares and told her that she should be buying CSL shares. And this is back in the probably 98, 99, when they were around $4, $4 to $5 a share. And she come and told me that I should be buying them. And of course, they've turned into one of the great shares on the stock market. And she never lets me forget, whenever they get mentioned on TV, or whenever they come up in conversation for whatever reason, she has to remind me that she told me to buy these shares all those years ago. And again, there's a share that have gone up 70, 80 times over that time, plus all the dividends that you would have got. So CSL, that's probably the one that hurts me the most when I look at it. And again, I own CSL now, but it's just when you're paying $100 and something a share rather than $5 a share, and you just know that you could have been very wealthy on that one stock. So I guess at the end of the day, it is a reminder that the real wealth is if you can hold the stock for a long time. You get the right stock, and there's a bit of luck involved, I think, because how are we to know that REA was the one out of all those tech stocks that went bust? How are we to know that REA was the one that was going to hang around? There were plenty of other good ideas out there at the same time. So look, there's a bit of luck involved, but really, I guess the key to long-term wealth is being smart, but also being patient. So there we go, guys. So just a little vid there about 3 stocks, and I'm sure you've got your own stories of stocks that you regret not buying, and of course there's the other side of regret where you do buy stocks that just turn into absolute dogs. And thinking back to when I was 17, 18, when CBA floated, instead of buying CBA when I turned 18, which I think was only 3 or 4 months after they initially floated, I rung a stockbroker, and he gave me the big tip on a company called Savage Resources. And I do remember buying $5,000, which was a lot of money back then to an 18-year-old. And we're talking early 90s. $5,000 worth of Savage Resources that went from 80 cents down to zero, lost the entire amount. And I think that's where I got my mistrust of stockbrokers from back then, because I won't say his name, I do remember his name, but he worked at a company called Patterson Ord Burnett, and they're still around in some guys. But he knew I was a sucker, basically, and he played me for a sucker. So I've never forgiven this young man, but it taught me some valuable lessons, and really it's why I don't trust a lot of people in regards to their advice today, because you just don't know what their ulterior motive is. So it really is up to you, to do your own research, and I guess you can get advice on how to do that research, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to do your own research and make sure any decisions that you make are based on your own research and not on somebody else's. Okay, no worries, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Friday. Catch us.